This evening, first up, a payday boost for public workers. The government announces an 8% salary increase, retroactive and just in time for elections. But is it enough to ease growing economic pressure? Plus, visa walls go higher. The US tightens its grip on drug traffickers, extending penalties to their friends and family. Plus, if you're applying for a US student visa, better make your social media public or risk rejection. Also, relief ahead of commuters. The final stretch of the long-awaited Heroes Highway nears completion. We'll show you how this East Bank mega project could transform your daily commute. Meanwhile, a digital ID revolution. Vice President Jagdeo lays out plans for biometric cards that will change how you travel, bank, and work, especially for migrants. What you need to know about the single EID system. And overseas, chaos in Togo. Police clash with protesters demanding regime change over a controversial constitutional reform. Is another African democracy on the brink? Stay tuned, all this and more coming up on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for June 27, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, the government of Guyana has announced an 8% salary increase for all public sector employees, effective as of July 1st, 2025, and retroactive to January 1st, 2025. The increase applies to public servants, teachers, members of the disciplined services, constitutional office holders, and government pensioners. Vice President Dr. Jagdeo, during his weekly press conference on Thursday, confirmed the increase and expressed hope that it would be paid before the upcoming elections. The payout follows a 2-year agreement signed last year with the Ghana Public Service Union, which previously delivered a 10% salary hike. This latest raise brings the total cumulative increase in public sector wages to 46% since 2021. Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and public service, Dr. Ashni Singh, formally confirmed the move earlier today. Dr. Jagdeo stated that beyond salary adjustments, the government has been distributing financial relief through various programs, including a $50,000 Because We Care cash grant and 5,000 uniform vouchers and $100,000 adult cash transfers. Old age pensions have also seen a significant increase from $22,000 in 2020 to $41,000 in 2025. The administration also addressed delays in the distribution of public assistance books. It announced that eligible National Insurance Scheme contributors aged 60 years or older by the end of 2024 can apply for a one-off payment. These measures are part of a broader effort to improve the standard of living for all Guyanese. In other news, final paving is underway on the Diamond to Busby Dam leg of Heroes Highway, bringing the east-west bypass closer to completion. Dale Jarvis tells us what this means for commuters.
The final leg of the long-awaited Heroes Highway is nearing completion, with paving works currently underway on the Diamond to Busby Dam section, a critical phase of the government's east-west bypass aimed at easing congestion along the East Bank Demerara corridor. This project, which has been executed in 3 phases, Mandela to Eccles, Eccles to Diamond, and now Diamond to Busby Dam, promises an uninterrupted connection to Soesdijk and improve access to the Chedijagan International Airport. Spanning 8.6 kilometers, the road includes over 30 concrete bridges and 2 major roundabouts. It is being executed by a consortium of contractors, including Guy American Construction, China Railway First Group, Nabi Construction, and others. Government officials say several lots are now over 80% complete, with no further deadline extensions anticipated. President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, who visited the project site earlier this year, has been pushing for 24-hour work shifts to ensure timely delivery. The Ministry of Public Works and the Office of the President have committed to enforcing the current timeline. Additional contracts totaling more than $120 billion have already been awarded for the subsequent phases of Busby Dam to Land of Canaan and Land of Canaan to Soesdijk, as part of the administration's broader national infrastructure agenda outlined in 2025 budget. Once completed, the highway is expected to significantly reduce traffic congestion, enhance connectivity, and support Guyana's growing transportation and economic needs. Reporting for Headline News Update, Dale Jarvis.
Thanks, Dale. Vice President Dr. Jagdeo has announced that Ghana's upcoming single electronic identification system will significantly enhance border control and improve the management of migrants residing in the country. Speaking at a press conference at Freedom House on Thursday, Jagdeo stated that every Guyanese will receive a biometric EID card within the following year.
We are working with a company now from the UAE and Germany to develop a high security national ID card that will be issued to every Guyanese within a year that they can use when coming in at the airport. They can swipe the card and come in, the Guyanese. They would use this card to open bank accounts. They may get the biometrics collected there would also help with digital banking, a whole range of other services.
The system, part of a US $35 million agreement signed in 2023 with German company Veridos Identity Solutions, has encountered minor delays due to integration issues. Nevertheless, the rollout remains on track.
That is being worked on now, and within a year, everyone would have, you either have one of these two cards. Guyanese will have a different color card, citizen of Guyana, and those who are resident but not citizen would have another card.
The EID cards will serve multiple purposes, including airport clearance, access to bank accounts, and other digitalized services. Non-Guyanese living in the country will be required to obtain a residency card with similar security features. Without it, they will face restrictions such as being unable to open bank accounts or secure former employment.
Every foreigner or everyone else who is non-Guyanese will have to have a residency card with the same security features and their biometrics too. If you don't have that, you're living in our country, you would have a hard time opening a bank account. In fact, there would be a prohibition on you opening a bank account without that card. Or employers here would have to ensure that people have that card. So at any given moment, we will know about all the people who are in our country, who are non-Guyanese, wherever they're from. And we will have their biometrics too. So when we put in the 3,000, 4,000 security cameras across the country, we'd be able to tell you exactly where they are at any moment.
All migrants will be given a grace period to comply with the EID requirements, after which penalties will be enforced. Jagdeo reassured the public that all incoming migrants are currently vetted and intelligence operations are in place to monitor any security threats. Acknowledging public concerns, he emphasized that the government must act with compassion, particularly towards Guyanese returnees. Stick around when we return. Ghana calls for global action to protect children in war zones, and the U.S. expands visa ban to families associates of drug traffickers.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Hurry small to make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the
problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. The U.S. has tightened its stance on global drug trafficking, now extending visa bans to family and associates of sanctioned traffickers. Dale Jarvis breaks down the policy shift and its implications.
The United States, in a bold move to disrupt narcotics trafficking, has tightened its grips on the global drug trade by extending visa restrictions to include family members, close personal contacts, and business associates of individuals sanctioned for narcotics trafficking. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made the announcement on Thursday, citing the unprecedented fentanyl crisis in the U.S., which claims over 220 lives daily. Under a new policy enacted under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the measure will apply to those connected to individuals sanctioned under Executive Order 14059. The move comes weeks after the U.S. government imposed sanctions on 4 Guyanese nationals for their alleged involvement in a transnational drug trafficking ring. Among those named were Senior Superintendent of Police Himnat Saw, businessman Paul Dabby Jr., Mark Damon Cromwell of Buxton, and Randolph Duncan. They are accused of working alongside Colombian drug lords to traffic cocaine through Guyana and Suriname. Secretary Rubio stated that these new restrictions aim to bar traffickers and their networks from entering the U.S., while deterring continued illicit activity. The U.S. Embassy recently issued a statement warning individuals applying for a U.S. visa as a student or for a cultural exchange, designated as F, M, or J visas, that they are now required to provide access to their social media accounts. Applicants must make their profiles public so the embassy can check their posts and activities. If you refuse to do this, your visa application could be denied. This is part of a new rule designed to help the U.S. verify applicants' identity and ensure they pose no risk before issuing a visa. Refusal to do so may result in visa denial, and U.S. authorities seek greater transparency in applicant backgrounds. Reporting for Headline News Update, Dale Jarvis.
Thanks, Dale. The government of Guyana is urging the world to step up and protect children who are suffering in war zones. Chairing the United Nations Security Council's annual open debate on children and armed conflict, Guyana, through the Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vinaya Prasad, issued an urgent appeal to the world to act decisively and collectively to shield the most vulnerable from the brutality of the conflict.
Guyana calls on all parties to conflict to comply with international law, including international humanitarian law and human rights law, and to immediately end and prevent violation and abuses against children.
Chairing the UN Security Council's annual debate on children and armed conflicts, Minister Prasad revealed that 2024 saw a 25% increase in serious harm to children in war-torn areas. She stressed that many children are losing their lives, missing out on education, and facing trauma every day with little being done to stop it. Dr. Prasad said the world is failing its children by not enforcing international laws meant to protect them and called on all countries and armed groups to stop harming children and follow the rules of war. She added that children, especially in places like Gaza, are paying the highest prices and are even getting injured by leftover explosives in what should be safe spaces like playgrounds.
It is my fervent hope that today's debate will be an opportunity to not just express outrage, but to follow through with tangible action. Children do not start wars, and they should never be made to suffer their horrific consequences. Ultimately, their best protection is peace.
Guyana uses presidency of the UN Security Council to bring this issue into the spotlight and has pledged to continue fighting for the rights and safety of children worldwide. Don't go away after the break. Homes washed away in Venezuela. Hundreds of families lose everything in flooding. An Ecuador drug kingpin arrested.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneak in with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. The U.S. is urging its citizens in Haiti to leave when safe amid ongoing gang violence. Though some domestic flights have resumed, the U.S. Embassy warns of serious risks and advises using commercial or private transport. Embassy staff remains barred from flying in or out of Port-au-Prince. Citizens are urged to avoid crowds, monitor local news, and be prepared to shelter in places as gangs expand control across the country. Meanwhile, in South America, devastating floods hit Merida State in Venezuela after the Charma River overflowed, sweeping away everything in its path. Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith reports.
When the Charma River burst its banks, the force of the rushing water swept away everything in its path. In this town in Merida State in the northwest of Venezuela, homes and roads were destroyed.
The economy here is totally affected because farmers living in the highlands can't harvest their crops. We have no way to get around, no access to drinking water, and some parts of the community have no electricity.
Residents tried to salvage what they could. The state government says hundreds of families have been affected by the flooding. Some people in these poor communities have lost everything. One of the main roads running through Merida was closed because of mudslides and falling trees, leaving parts of the state isolated. It's the rainy season in this part of Venezuela, and tropical weather patterns provoked intense downfalls here. In some areas, it rained non-stop for 12 hours. The Venezuelan government has activated a special response plan, providing medical care, food and supplies. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
Jose Adolfo Marcias, known as Fito, Ecuador's most wanted fugitive, was recaptured on Wednesday. He will remain in custody while authorities await word from the United States on his potential extradition to face federal charges in New York. Al Jazeera's Teresa Bow reports.
He was Ecuador's most wanted man, the leader of Los Choneros criminal gang. Jose Adolfo Macias, also known as Fito, was recaptured in the city of Manta, his hometown. In a video showed by authorities, he appeared to live in a basement and found hiding in an underground bunker. Macias escaped from a prison in Ecuador last year while serving a 34-year sentence for homicide and drug trafficking.
Fito has fallen, and they'll all fall. Today, this narco-terrorist is where he belongs, La Roca prison. We have never made deals, and here is the proof.
President Daniel Noboa was re-elected earlier this year, vowing to fight criminal gangs that have turned this once quiet Andean nation into one of the most violent in the region. He declared the state of exception and deployed the military to carry out operations alongside the police. But human rights groups say violence is ongoing, especially among the most vulnerable communities. For Ecuador, Macias' capture is seen as an example that the government's security strategy is working. Macias has also been indicted in the U.S. Officials have accused him of importing thousands of kilos of cocaine into the United States. Ecuadorian officials say they expect Macias to be extradited soon.
That extradition depends on the U.S. government. We have done our part. We have fulfilled our obligations. I hope that in the coming hours or days, we will have information about the extradition process.
Macias' capture happened a week after another drug lord known as Fede escaped a high-security prison in Ecuador. And while the government celebrates the latest drug-related detention, many fear it won't be enough to quell the ongoing violence. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera.
Police in West African nation of Togo have used tear gas and batons to break up anti-government protests in the capital, Lome. Demonstrators are demanding the resignation of the president following a recent constitutional reform that could allow him to remain in power indefinitely. Al Jazeera.
Once a rare sight in Togo's capital Lome, protests are becoming frequent. The government, led by Faure Gnassingbé, banned them 3 years ago. He's ruled for 20 years. Recent constitutional changes allow him to stay in power for life. Demonstrators want him to go.
He should step aside and let someone else lead. You can't keep ruling us by force forever. Let someone else prove what they can do.
Demonstrators blocked roads all over the city and in several other towns after activists called for 3 days of peaceful protests starting on Thursday. The rising cost of living has also fueled discontent. Togo's the 10th poorest country in the world.
All we want is for Gnassingbé to step down. We'll keep protesting, even after 3 days, until he finally leaves power.
The crackdown by police and soldiers hasn't kept people off the streets. Amnesty International says dozens were arrested and many tortured following demonstrations 3 weeks ago. The government says it hasn't received any official complaints of torture. But it's something the regional bloc ECOWAS has frequently condemned Gnassingbé's government for. His rule followed that of his father, Gnassingbé Eyadema, who was in power for 38 years. Hundreds of people have been killed and thousands forced from their homes during decades of crackdowns on dissent. Last month, a popular singer, Amron, called for people to mobilize against the government in a social media video. He was arrested the following day. After his release, 2 weeks later, he apologized to Gnassingbé and said he was seeking psychiatric treatment in hospital. That hasn't deterred the demonstrators.
Faure, please set Togo free. This country doesn't belong to you or the Gnassingbé family. Just let go of the country.
The government said anyone spreading false information or causing disturbance will face the full force of the law. Activists have called for the protests to continue until Saturday. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's TV2 Headline News for this Friday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will be off for the weekend, but you can tune in on Monday at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and do have a wonderful weekend.